All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. Today is Wednesday, and let's get this thing started, shall we? So, if you're new to the stream, welcome. The way this works is first I do my analysis using I use looking for trend and levels, right? Just using a basic chart. Then we go to the smaller time frames and look for confirmations using the Trade Scanner Pro. I'm placing trades on the micro Nasdaq futures using this Apex account over here. All right. And I had an interesting trade on Monday that really propelled me forward a bit. I had a 31 micro lot trade, which is 3.1 mini lots. It's a big position, right? So the idea is to beat the evaluation. I'm going to talk more about that here in a minute. I'm showing in a sustainable way, but it's taking too long, right? So that's what I want to address. But before I get into all that, let's just upgrade. Let's just update Bitcoin a bit here, because using the Trade Scanner Pro, there was an opportunity here. All right. Now, if you watched my stream on Monday, I talked about the possibility here of reversing somewhere, right? Anywhere between the 102, 103 to wherever. It could reverse wherever it wants. The thing is, it reversed right here, and it just so happened to be a signal on the Trade Scanner Pro, which was present on the daily time frame. It retouched the blue line. As I always talk about, wait for the retouch or of some kind, right? This trade has been in play now for basically a week. This was Thursday back here, right? So all these days went by. You had a pullback into the blue line. Now, this current candle isn't closed, so this can be considered the entry upon the close of this candle, but the price is bad. You're getting a bad price. So how could you have gotten involved in this? Well, if you went to a smaller time frame, like a 1 hour, right? That's where you're looking for the confirmations. I mean, look at this. There was a signal over here. This stopped out. Let's see. Yeah, that stopped out for 700 and whatever points. I guess that was this little move over here, right? All right, let's take a look at the 30-minute. We're going to find a trade somewhere. Let's see. 15-minute. Not even on here, huh? Oh, because that was bearish, I guess. It was giving bearish signals. All right, well, the idea is this. You're looking for, the 5-minute. You're looking for a bullish confirmation when you're seeing the pullback, right, on your larger time frame into your entry price of the Trade Scanner Pro. You're waiting for bullish signals, but on a smaller time frame. Now, this could be tricky because if the trend on the smaller time frame turns bearish, but you're looking for bullish signals, you have to switch to counter trend mode. In this case, counter trend mode wasn't required. All right, look at this. This is a 5-minute chart. Look at this. So the signal eventually came here. All right, but if you were looking at like 1 hour or 2 hour, there were no signals, right? In this case here, most likely these signals failed, which that's going to happen, right? But you're also looking for price structure. So as the market pulled back on the daily time frame, which were these candles over here, right? And you know you're going back into your buy price area for the Trade Scanner Pro, okay, maybe these fail, but also pay attention to the structure. There's lower highs all over the place here. Okay, lower highs, lower highs. That's why I tell people don't take the actual signal itself, use it as a filter. So there's two filters happening here. The first one is on the daily time frame, right, which is where the signal appeared. That's your first filter. That's your basically your heads up, and then you're looking for a justification to get in on this candle, right? Before the candle looks like this, you're looking for some sort of bullish confirmation. That's when you're searching your smaller time frames for that bullish confirmation. When it appears, right? Like for example, on the 5-minute chart, right? If it appears on something like this, or maybe back here, look, the trend was clearly bearish here. You'd have to be in counter trend mode to capture the bullish side of that. right? So I'd have to go here. You'd have to know to do that. Counter trend mode, right? Let's see. Look at that. Bullish signals all over the place at this bottom, right? Which is a double bottom situation. It's tricky. It's tricky. What about the hourly? Anything there? The hourly too, right? Look at the hourly. There were signals in there. How about the 4-hour? The 4-hour has a, what is that? Is that a short signal? It's a short signal on the 4-hour. That's present now. But back here on that pullback, which is basically this area right here, there were signals. So again, you're not jumping in on the signal. You're using that as a heads up and then looking for a retest of that signal, the blue line of that signal, right? Which looks like there was a retest. Because if this was the heads up right here, look at these tails on these candles. So it's not easy, but it's there. All right, for those who want to actually learn how to do this in a sustainable way. All right. So enough about Bitcoin. We're not here to talk about Bitcoin. We're here to talk about the MNQ. So let's go to MNQ. All right, MNQ1. Now, again, we're right on top of a holiday here. Friday is a holiday, right? Major holiday here in the US. So you better believe after today, I mean, this whole week has been pretty lousy, but after today, forget it. Like the party's over. Don't even bother with the markets. That's my suggestion. All right, we want to switch this to a 1-minute time frame over here. Okay. There's a signal there. I'm going to turn these off over here. We don't need these. All right. And we'll analyze this further here in a moment. Again, you don't jump into signals. In fact, I'm not even using the signal as a signal. I'm using it as a heads up. Right? And we'll see if this makes sense. So the first step, as you know, when we do the analysis for our day trades with the Trade Scanner Pro, the first thing I like to do is look at the daily time frame. And on the daily time frame, I'm only looking for levels. So I want today's low, but that's the overnight low. I want yesterday's low, right? They're right on top of each other. I want today's high, which is the overnight high, and I want yesterday's high, right? So those are my support and resistance levels for today. That's it. Now I want to go to a 60-minute time frame. I use the 60-minute to just get a general sense of momentum and structure. That's going to help me decide what side of the Trade Scanner Pro I should be working on, long or short, where I should be looking for confirmations. Now, look at this situation, right? We had a pullback started yesterday a bit. This general trend has been bullish. All right, good to know. The thing is, we have a double bottom situation, and look at this bullish engulfing candle, or pretty much, it's not exactly bullish engulfing, but it's a large bullish candle. I'm going to go with trend, momentum is bullish, right? That's pretty simple, pretty easy to see. I'm on my 30-second chart now because that's where I'm going to take trades. I'm going to turn the Trade Scanner Pro on. I'm going to make sure with my Trade Scanner Pro that I have my trailing stop, my show previous trades, and my heads up. I'm going to make sure those functions are on. I'm going to look at my trend status up here, which says trend is bullish. Okay. I want to look for longs. Do you see how I came up with that? It wasn't that hard. Pretty much the hourly tells me where the momentum is, right? And this price action right here, this price action represents that large bullish candle. Okay, that's what the large bullish candle is made up of, this. And I see nothing but higher lows and higher highs. Yes, we have a double top over here, but that doesn't necessarily qualify as a trend change. I'm not exactly, my resistance is up here, but I'm not exactly on it, am I? Right? One resistance anyway. So I'm going to work on the long side. Unless this structure changes, I'm going to work on the long side. Does that make sense? Let me know if it doesn't make sense. So now what I'm going to be doing is, since I know I'm a day trader, that's why I choose the 30-second or the 1-minute time frame. You have to know that part in advance. You can't just start looking around and say, oh, look, a signal, and then try to adjust and try to make that work. You don't do that. Like right now, this is a short signal. I'm not interested in short signals. So I ignore this, right? First of all, if I was going to work with this, actually I missed the trade, or this would be another entry over here because it's the retouch of the blue line. But the ideal entry was missed. This would be ideal right here. That is ideal. Okay, where the signal appears, which I use as a heads up, it retraces into the risk gap, and then it gives us another entry, right? A much better price. So that would have been one entry. This would have been an add, but I'm not looking for shorts. So I ignore that. Okay, I ignore it. So if that bothers you, you could basically turn it off, right? That's one thing you can do. Now, the trend on this time frame must have changed recently because I see all these red columns over here, and those red columns are a heads up, right? That's a bearish heads up. Oh, look, I got my signal on my 30-second. That's a bearish heads up, which means the trend was bearish recently, and it just changed. All right. So that's why you can't be confused by that. That's why I do these streams, so you can learn that. All right, so I'm going to turn the Trade Scanner Pro off on this time frame because it can be confusing. And I'm going to work with it here on the 30-second because it's in line with my analysis. You line it up with your analysis. Now, I have a signal here, but I'm using it as a heads up. That's my signal filter. I don't just jump in because these candles can be very random and erratic. Now, we have 2 minutes till 10 o'clock. I believe there's some news at 10 o'clock today, some economic news. It's not major news, but it can move the market a bit. So let's see what kind of price action we get inside this risk gap. That's going to determine if I take the trade or not, right? That's how you use this as a filter. It's very important. It keeps you out of a lot of trouble. Now, at times, yes, I'm going to miss trades doing it like this. I'm going to miss trades where it signals and goes right to the profit objective. But we're in a low momentum environment, especially going into a holiday. So using this filter would be the better choice. When we're in a high momentum environment, like during the high volume months, that would be a better time to use this thing outright and just take the signal rather than using it as a filter. Hey, more because you were in counter trend, I believe. Well, what do you mean? I'm not sure what you mean by that. By the way, I want to mention something. Let's see how this plays out. We have less than a minute here for this news to come out. Let the economic news come out, and then we'll figure it out from there. Hey, it's good to see you. Yeah, so I want to mention something. I've been a week ago, Monday of the previous week. No, on the 1 minute, I switched. No, I was not in counter trend on the 1 minute. I don't think I was. Let me check. Hold on. Oh, you're right. That's why there's a short. At least I'm glad someone's paying attention. All right. That's exactly why there was a short there. Okay, so I could leave this on because there should be nothing there. Okay, cool. Well, but see, the red columns are still there, which means the trend was bearish, and then it changed. Okay, so the trend is bullish now because that's what it says. Okay, look, this may be an entry here. Is it 10 o'clock? Yeah. Okay, so the news is out. Let this candle close. Man, this thing doesn't waste any time. I want to see a green candle close. That looks pretty good, that candle. Right, we're going. All right, I can't. I gotta buy that. All right, now here's what I'm going to do here. All right, so I'm long one, and I'm going to buy two more. If I add on this, if we can blow through here, is this thing going to even give me that opportunity? All right, I'm going to try it. I'm going to add. I put on two. Now I'm being a little more aggressive because I want to make some more progress with this account. And I keep in mind, when I'm wrong, I'm going to blow a lot of money because I'm taking larger positions. Okay. Now, 3 micro lots is not a very large position. 31 micro lots is. Okay. That's how I made my day on Monday because I had 31 micro lots by mistake. All right. Now I'm going to prepare to sell. All right, let's see if we can get into this midpoint area. I like to sell early. That's what I do with this thing because the Nasdaq is very erratic and can be very, very random. So sometimes, we get near the profit objective. This thing hesitates. I start taking some off. I start taking profit. All right, because these order suggestions are just that, order suggestions. You don't have to wait. There's nothing precise here. They just give you guidelines. That's all they do. Right? So you have to, it helps if you have some judgment yourself, and that takes a little time to develop. Like I know with the Nasdaq, I know how erratic it is. So if we struggle to get up here, I start blowing out. I don't care. If I'm 1-to-1, I don't care. I just want to preserve capital. And if I have a profit, I want to preserve the profit. This thing's going back to the blue line. Now, this is another opportunity to add. If that closes green, but I'm not going to, I have 3 on. I'll just stick with my 3. I'm not going to add. I mean, this thing moves quick. Okay, it moves quick. If we can work our way up to here, the 22,741 area, I'll be happy to start taking some off. Right up in this area, I'll start selling. Now, if this thing pulls back like to here and gives me another entry opportunity, I may add on that one, maybe. We'll see. Okay. Now, so my broader structure here on my 1 minute, look, that low that was put in, that's a higher low. So theoretically, this should go for the higher high. Now, I notice here we have one of these like inverse triangle type of situations. It's a triangle that expands rather than contracts. Those are very typical of like low volume, slow grind type of environments. I don't like those. I don't like these type of environments. Okay. So now, especially the worst time probably to trade today would be the afternoon, like after 2 o'clock. Because if there's going to be any action, it's now. This is action time for day trades. Other than that, go do something else. All right. Because once volume dries up, this sucks. And it's not worth your time sitting in front of a computer, for an hour or whatever, trying to make money. It's just not worth it. All right. Go do something enjoyable. All right. We're getting close. I think I'm going to start selling soon here. That's a nice candle close. Again, it's a 30-second chart. So it's very erratic. It can give it all back very quickly. I'm going to give it a chance. Hopefully it doesn't give it all back. But you know how the market loves to make me look bad. Or maybe I love to make myself look bad. And I blame it on the market. What do you think about using TSE Pro and entering when the trend changes? I'm not sure what you mean by that, eh? Well, that's exactly what I'm doing. That's exactly what I'm using it as a heads up. That's the filter. That's the filter that I'm describing here. I don't take the trade when the signal appears, right? Assuming that these suggestions represent the signal, I'm not using it to enter the signal. What I'm doing is I'm using it as the heads up, and then I'm using the candlesticks or a retest of the entry price as the signal. So it's a filter, and it keeps me out of a lot of bad trades, especially those trades that you take and go straight to the stop. It completely keeps me out of those. So that's exactly how I'm using it, right now. And that's particular to this slow environment, because in a fast environment, you don't have to use it that way. But in a slow, I mean, you can, but you're going to miss more trades, right? In a slow environment, and this is very applicable to larger time frames, because larger time frames, you may have a signal in play, just like Bitcoin has that long signal that's been in play since Thursday. And there's been, and it just offered its first reentry opportunity. So you would have had to have waited until today or yesterday on your smaller time frame to look to enter that trade. All right, this thing is just not continuing. All right, I'm gonna sell one. All right, I sold one. You can see the order behind me. Okay, my trailing stop is in play now. I have 2 contracts left. When the trend changes in the top right, looking for market structure, when the trend is very strong. Okay, I'm not sure what you mean. So Yeah, I'll put that up so people could see your question. When the trend changes in the top right, okay, the trend status changes, and looking for market structure, when the trend is very strong, well, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Like when the trend changes, so like using the bigger picture first, right? Like using the daily time frame, like I was doing. There we go, getting back to that profit objective there. Good thing I only sold one and not all of them. You have to. I'm trying to understand your question. I don't fully understand it. So when the signal was present on the daily time frame for days, and in that situation, you're looking for some sort of confirmation, right? The confirmation really has not appeared until today or yesterday. Depends on the time frame you look, the smaller time frame that you're evaluating. Today, the candle still is not even closed yet. So the signal would actually be based on the candle close, but the pricing is bad, right? You want to buy this thing at 108, like that's a bad price. I still wouldn't buy it. I just don't like the price. So to get in on that earlier, yesterday at some point, from 5 o'clock or whenever today's candle opened, right, until today, 5 o'clock or whenever it closes. Yesterday, when that candle opened, at some point it retested the blue line on the daily time frame. So you're watching that on your one chart, and then you're going to your smaller time frame, and you're looking for the Trade Scanner Pro again to pop a signal up, and you're using the same process. You're not taking that signal. You're using that as a heads up. And then you're looking for a price action confirmation, right? Like a double bottom, a pin bar, something on your action time frame, like a 4-hour chart, whatever it is you're working on, 1-hour chart. And in that mode, you may have to be switching to counter trend mode. So it can be confusing, right? To catch a trade like that, it does require more experience. Like I would not expect a beginner to be able to catch a trade like that because it's too complex. There are too many moving parts. Also looking at the trend status change on the lower time frame to look for an entry. Right. Well, right. There wasn't much pulling back, right? Right. I mean, if we go to that chart, I got to manage this trade here. But when the market is rallying, for example, I mean, obviously you're looking to work on that side. So it's going to depend, right? Again, so just with the Bitcoin example, you had the retest of the blue line. So at some point it was pulling back, right? I guess the first couple of days it was pulling back, and then it found its bottom somewhere in there, right? And that's where the Trade Scanner Pro can be helpful at refining that signal. Now, there are a bunch of false signals in there. That's why, again, you don't take the signal outright. You use the signal itself as the heads up on the smaller time frame. And you may have to switch to counter trend mode, for that scenario. So, so I see what you're saying. Using the trend status as a reason to entry. I wouldn't use the trend status. I wouldn't use that because that's because of what that's based on. You're better off using the signal itself as your heads up and then using candlesticks to confirm, not the trend status. The trend status is based on you could think of it as like a moving average. It's a similar idea. That's not, and so you don't want to take trades based on that. It may work coincidentally. Look at that profit objective. Nice. I'm going to sell one. Here, watch the order behind me. Okay. Well, actually, there's no reason to sell it yet. Let's wait for a red candle. Right? Why sell prematurely? I sold one a little early. So let's get some red candle action here, and then I'll sell it. This is imagine if I had 31 micro lots in this situation, I would have beat the eval. I'm up a decent amount here. All right. All right, I'm going to sell one now because I got the red candle. There's the red. So I sold above the profit objective. I have one more left. Let's see how I'm doing as far as my P&L goes. How am I doing here? Oh, up $150. All right. Now, if I had size, real size, this isn't size, by the way. 3 micro lots is not size. Size is a mini lot, okay, or 10 micro lots. That's what I want to demonstrate on these streams, getting bigger, like that kind of big. Because to beat the eval, that's the only way to do it in a timely manner. All right. You have to trade enormous size. Now, is that sustainable? No, it's not. Because if you're wrong, you blow the account. The idea is to only do that for the eval. Like this trade would have been huge, right? If I had if I had three mini lots like I had on yesterday, every 10 points is $200, right? So if I'm up 30 points, I'm up $600. If I'm up 40 points, that's 800. If I'm up 50 points, I'm up $1,000 on 3 mini lots, right? So, and then you catch a runner like this, forget it. That's how you beat the eval. But if you're wrong, if I was wrong on Monday, if I was wrong, I would have blown the account probably very quickly, right? All it has to do is go, well, on 3 mini lots, it'd have to go at least 40 or 50 points against me, something like that. And the account would be blown, right? Well, because I would have to, yeah, it'd have to be something like that. Maybe a little bit more than that. But if I had like 5 mini lots or 10, forget it. 10 mini lots, 15 points, I'm out. I blow the account. But if I'm right, all right, all I have to do is make 20 points and I beat the eval. It can happen in minutes. All right, I think I'm going to take this off the table here. Maybe I'll use the order window, the trade, what do you call it? The trade ladder, because you can actually see you can see the result of me placing the trade there. Oh, look, it's turning green again. All right, I'll let it ride. Nice. So again, how was I able to arrive at this idea? It simply came from the 1 hour time frame. The momentum was bullish, right? And that was pretty obvious on the smaller time frames as well. Higher lows and higher highs. The 10 o'clock news came out. It set the tone for the market here. Great. I don't care about any of that stuff. I captured the momentum, right? I don't have to use any oscillators or any of that other nonsense. This tool is adequate. And I demonstrate this all the time, right? Sometimes I have some rough trades, and I've identified a pattern in those losing trades because there's a similarity in all of my losing trades that I show here. And that similarity is usually a conflicted environment. One time frame says one thing, the other time frame says something else. When I see that mixed market, that's usually when I get into trouble. Okay, also low momentum, which this will turn into probably as the day continues here. We're consolidating again. I'm preparing to bang this out. Now I could place a limit order on the order book over here and just see if it taps me at a higher price. I can do something like that, but I'll just use the manual exit. I'll just press this red button over here, and that's going to send a market order and blow me out of it. Right? So, but again, so beating the eval is not the same as looking to take payouts, right? Being in the payout phase. It's not the same thing. And what separates the two is the sizing strategy, not necessarily your entry or exit strategy. It's the sizing, right? I'm going to be right on trades. As you can see, I'm right all the time, but I have small positions. I'm also wrong a decent amount of the time, right? But when I'm wrong, I try to keep my positions as small as possible, usually 1 micro lot. So if I'm wrong, I lose a little bit of money, right? But if I try to be right when I'm bigger, I try to, when I'm right, I try to be bigger, right? And there's a way to do that. You take a smaller position first, it starts to work, then you put on the bigger size. And you have to put it all in one, like it's basically a 2-step process. You start out with your smaller one, it's working, Then you go big. In this case, I only put on 2, but ideally I should be putting on 9. So I have 10 or 1 mini lot, right? I'd be up hundreds of dollars right now on something like this. And then I could just sell them a little at a time. All right. I think I'm going to say goodbye here. Let's see. Oh, if it wants to stay green, I'll just let it ride. Look at my trailing stop. Look at my trailing stop. Look at this. I mean, it's almost at the profit objective. So every time I'm like, I want to get out, right? It hesitates. What are we at? 762? Man. What am I up? Like 50 points in this trade almost? 40 points almost, I think. I'm long from 20. Yeah. So I'm up about 40 points. Right. So on a mini lot, that's $400 if I had a mini lot on. Okay. But I don't have a mini lot. I have micro lots. But at this point, if I had 10, I probably, at this point, I would have been reduced probably to 2 or 3 anyway, because I like to take profits along the way. You're not going to max out the whole thing. All right. Goodbye. I pressed the button. You see? See the order behind me? I'm out. As you can see, I'm out. Let's take a look at the P&L. That was a beautiful trade. Too bad I had $161. All right. Not bad. I'll take it for a few minutes. So, okay. So you understood my explanation there, eh? Man, I had a great trade and no one is watching. No one is watching this stream except for A. That's why it doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. I showed a great trade on Monday. By the way, Monday, I shorted the market on Monday. That 31 micro lot trade was short. Monday was a long day. Monday was a bullish day. And I still got away with a $400 profit or $450 profit on being on the wrong side of the market. So that's a function of trade management. I was wrong because the momentum told me to go short. I tried going short. I had a brief opportunity to take some money. That's why I always take money off the table. If I was stubborn or like, oh, I'm gonna hold this and the Nasdaq's gonna go to zero, I would have been minus $1,000 or more or whatever. But that's why I take profits quickly. Generally, I take profits on these time frames. I don't give it much of a chance. And that's a mistake sometimes. I leave money on the table, but who cares? Right? I'm looking to minimize risk. I'm looking to minimize loss. I don't care about leaving money on the table. That doesn't matter. It wasn't my money. It was the market's money. Right? So I was on the wrong side of the market. So it just goes to show trade management is a very important function. Right? A very important part of the process. A lot of times it could be more important than the signals themselves, because managing it if it's wrong or managing it if it's right. Right? Like in this case, I was able to ride that a lot further than the profit objective. Right? I captured here, the actual trade was worth 29 points, but I captured like 40 points, right? Because I got in around here and I sold it around here. Yeah, 43 points. So I made an extra 10 points, basically. All right? Nothing wrong with that. That's how you maximize it. And it's still running. Like it still hasn't touched the trailing stop yet. But a lot of times I don't like to wait for that. I don't want to give it back. So anyway, so one thing I wanted to mention. What time is it? Okay. To beat evals, it's really about the sizing. Now, like I said before, I started another account on Monday, not this Monday, the Monday before, right? But it's not on. It wasn't a TradeEvade account. I beat the eval, right? And was I using any kind of special magical technique? No, I was doing the same thing that you saw me doing here. I don't have that on stream though, because I was doing that off stream. Yeah, I know I should stream that, but it wasn't TradeEvade. I have a TradeEvade account, which is this one, right? This is the one I could show here. And then I have another one, which is Rhythmic, right? And so I started the Rhythmic account. I like Rhythmic better because I just like it, right? It's simpler in a lot of ways. And I'm not streaming that, so I don't have to have the connection to TradingView, right? The thing with that account, the problem with streaming it is I can't show the Trade Scanner Pro on it because it doesn't allow me to, right? Because it's not on the TradingView platform. So I have no way of showing the Trade Scanner Pro. That's the problem with that, right? Now, understand that the mechanics behind the Trade Scanner Pro are like, I know what they are because it's my software, right? It's my script. So I can actually trade the Trade Scanner Pro without actually seeing the orders, the order suggestions. I can actually do that because I generally know how this thing works, right? The order suggestions are representation for you so that you can visually see and you don't have to know the mechanics behind it. Now, I'm mentioning this because I beat the eval. Here's the point that I want to make. And I have the certificate. I'll show it next time. I have it on. They give you like a certificate that you win, whatever, right, for Apex. It's 50, same exact type of account, 50K account, all that stuff. It took me 6 days to beat the eval, right? Actually, it took me 4 days, but I spread it out a bit. And the way I was able to do that, again, first on day one, I went in with the biggest size, right? 5 mini lots or whatever. I made like almost $2,000 like in 1 or 2 trades. And then I stopped. That was it. And then each day I would just get closer. I would trade big. I would get closer. I was trying to beat the eval like in one trade, but I wasn't able to do that. But I would, and the closer that I would get to the profit objective, the smaller my size would get. Because if I messed up, I would blow the opportunity, right? And Thursday, for example, was a bad day. It was a really slow day. But I was on one, I was at that point, I was on micro lots. So I lost $25, okay, which is nothing. And I stopped because I was so close to the profit objective. I was like $100 off or like $50 off. I'm like, I'm not going to blow this. So then, of course, I could make that. I could make $50 or $25 back. I could make that very easily. So that's how I beat the eval. All right. Now, here's the other question. Wow, 6 days, right? So technically, it was 4 days, but officially 6 days. Wow, that's pretty good, right? You want to know how long it took me to figure out how to beat the eval? This is the part that's going to depress you. It took me 18 months to do that. 18 months it took me. Okay? And over 2 dozen evals. I almost have 30 evals. Okay? All failed except for this one and that one. Right? Because this one, I haven't blown this one yet. Over 2 dozen evals. 18 months it took me to figure out how to do that. So what does that say? And I have some experience. It's not like I'm a newbie here. So yes, it's depressing. It shouldn't take you 18 months, but you have to understand something too. To be fair, I wasn't using the same strategy or the same technique all 18 months. I experimented with a variety of strategies and techniques. I started out with dollar cost averaging. I also started out at another prop firm. I was using Top Step, which I do not like at all. And eventually I found Apex and I started using Apex. But I originally started out with Top Step, and I started out doing other things like dollar cost averaging. I was trying other techniques, and it was just blowing. I was blowing at least 1 or 2 accounts every month. Then I figured out certain things, right? I figured out how to incorporate the Trade Scanner Pro because initially I wasn't using the Trade Scanner Pro. But oh, look at that. Oh man, this thing never touched my stop. I still could have been in this. This trade is still valid, but whatever. So one thing I want to say is, to beat an eval, you really don't need a specific entry method. You can flip a coin. Okay? Think about this. You can beat an eval by flipping a coin. It's all about the sizing. Because they want to know. They want to know, like there was this thing, like they wanted me to describe my strategy in detail. I'm not going to tell you exactly how I do it, but so you could block me, right? So it's the Trade Scanner Pro, but I'm not going to explain to them how that works. I'm not going to explain to them the mechanics of the Trade Scanner Pro. They can watch my stream. But it wasn't the Trade Scanner Pro that really helped me beat the eval. It was not. It was the sizing. The sizing. Okay, I start out with a micro lot, and then when I'm right, I add a big position, or I start out with a mini lot. In that account, I would start out with a mini lot, and then if it was going my way, just like you saw me here, I would add 5 mini lots, right? Not 10. 10 was too big, because if you're wrong just a little bit on 10, you blow the account. And I've blown some accounts. You're going to blow accounts doing it. I just so happen to be right, right? And that's why you could flip a coin. When it comes to beating an eval, you can flip a coin. Now, with the payout account, though, can't trade size because you'll blow the account. Because now I have to pay a setup fee. I have to pay $140 to use the payout account. So it's like, yeah, great. I beat you. I got to pay more money now. That's my reward. I have to pay more money. So, but I just want to share that story with you because that's how I was able to do it. Okay. Now, in contrast to what I'm doing here, this strategy, I'm trying to do it in a sustainable way, which is taking forever. It took me 6 days on that one. So far, I've been at this one like 3 months, and I'm just getting my P&L back to where I was like a month ago. Right? That's what happens when you do it the slow way, which is okay for payouts. That's how you want to do it, but not for beating the eval. So I'm going to try to keep this. I don't want to keep this account open a whole lot longer because I just keep paying subscription fees on it. That's why what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get bigger and bigger with the size and hopefully beat the eval so that when I stream, I can stream something worthwhile and I can take payouts on it. Basically doing what I'm doing here, right? But to get to that point, I'm going to have to do something with this eval, either blow the account and start another one or beat the eval, right? Now, I'm not going to use the coin flip method with this because that would just be a bad example to show people, right? I'm not going to flip a coin and then take trades on a coin flip. I'm still going to use the Trade Scanner Pro. It's just, hopefully I'm right? But I don't control that part. Make sense? So, what a great trade. So this market's amazing today. Look at this. Beautiful. Slow grind higher. I got out early. Of course, I always leave money on the table. What else is new? But man, I was long from here. This would have been worth, 78 points. That's a lot of money. 78-point trade on the Nasdaq. And it's still going. That's a huge trade. Okay. This usually my typical trade on the Nasdaq, I'm happy if I can get 20 points. If I can get 30 points, that's a home run. This thing is 78 points from the entry. So look at that. And that looks like the tone was set from that 10 o'clock number, whatever that 10 o'clock number was. I know oil inventories came out at that time, and there were a couple other things that came out. Look at that. Nice, right? All right, you guys. So any questions? So it was a nice trade. No one's watching. I got A. No one's watching. Not even on Twitter. Nothing. That's why. Oh yeah. By the way, so that brings up another important point. What I'm changing my schedule. Yeah, I'm not going to stream on Fridays. No, so I'm not streaming on Friday because look, no one's watching me, man. So I'm taking for the whole summer. I'm taking Fridays off. There's no point in me streaming when I only have literally 2 people watching me on YouTube and just a handful of people on Twitter, which are probably bots anyway, right? So I'm going to use that time to improve my content. I need to build a backlog. I need to do more tutorial type content for my channel. I need to develop my channel because this here is a very, very poor use of my time. And I can't keep doing this because my following is my followers are going negative here. I'm going the wrong way. It's shrinking every time I stream, right? It should be growing. So I can't continue to do this. So no more. I'm not going to stream on Fridays, and I'm going to stream my regular time on Mondays, 3 p.m., which is my analysis, and then I'll stream on Wednesday at this time, like I'm doing. So I'm going to reduce this to one stream a week. That's what I'm going to do, because there's just no point in me streaming 3 days when I'm not getting anything out of it, you know. And I appreciate the couple of people that come and watch me, but I need to build my channel up so that I can bring more people to my streams, and I need the time to do that. I can't do everything, so that's what I have to do. Yeah, so I'm not giving up. Obviously, I'm just gonna reduce my schedule so that I can allocate that time to working on my channel, so I could build my channel more, and then then I'll be more incentivized to do these streams more frequently again. Plus, it's summertime anyway. No one's watching. Yeah, actually, I was just gonna bring that up. Yes, the interview is actually done. The cutting is done. Everything is done. I even have some B-roll on it. All I'm doing right now is I'm just putting. I replaced the intro because I don't like the intro. So I'm gonna actually cut that in today. I have it. It's a 30-second intro, and then that's it. There's no more work to do on it. I'm done. And then what I'm gonna do, all I have to do at that point is I have to do the thumbnail. So I'm gonna work on that today too. Merlin sent me a picture that I could use for the thumbnail, so I'm gonna do the thumbnail and then I'm done. So that interview will be out probably by tomorrow or the next day. I'll have it up on YouTube. So it took me an effing month, but the first 2 weeks I hardly worked on it, right? So it was really the second 2 weeks, but still, man, like it took me so long because getting the B-roll, I had to pull the streams, the ICTC. I pulled I have really cool B-roll from the show, but it took me forever to pull that because it's two 6-hour streams, and it was very big, gigantic file. You don't need to hear all those details, but it sucked, and I hate cutting video. Okay, anyway, but it took me forever, but it's done. I put a nice intro on it, a better hook on it. I just have to do the thumbnail, and then that's it. I'll have the upload up there. So expect it in the next couple of days. It'll be up. And then I'm going to do I'm going to just make a 10-minute version of it, which all I have to do is cut to 10 minutes and then turn that into a video. That's easy. And then I'm going to do a 1 minute or whatever. Like I'm going to do a short, which I'll do for a YouTube short, and I'll put it on Instagram and stuff like that. And that's how I'm going to drive more traffic to the 1-hour interview. But anyway, thanks for asking about that. Yeah, that was a lot of work, but it looks good. And the B-roll, that's why I took the time to put the B-roll in it, because it's one thing to talk about what he had done and how he accomplished it. It's another thing to see it, right? So he talks about it, and then you see it from the actual show, because no one's going to go back and watch those streams, right? 6-hour streams. Think about the amount of money that they spent on that production was in the millions. Okay, I know this. In the millions they spent, and I know when they streamed it live, they had a good viewership. They were happy with that. But if you look at the streams now, if you look at the replay, it only has like 10,000 views or like something like that. I mean, all that time and all that effort and all that money, because no one's going to watch a 6-hour stream after the fact. What they should do is they should be clipping it. Right, clipping it, and I'm going to clip parts of it, and I'm just going to upload that like as a a reaction type video or something, whatever. But they should be clipping that thing into small clips, then to drive people to the big. But no one's clipping it; they're not clipping it. So anyway, whatever. I just wanted to mention that. But I got some really cool clips out of there showing Merlin in action and looking at his charts and all that other stuff. So it's not just a bunch of talk. You can actually see him doing what he says he's doing. Right? That's what I really like about it. So anyway, all right, cool. Yeah. All right, you guys. So I'll leave you with that. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your holiday. All right, we have 4th of July holiday. Don't drink too much. Don't eat too much. All that stuff. The interviews repeated a lot during the live stream. So, yeah. Yeah, I mean the live stream plus who's going to sit there and watch 6 hours? No one's going to watch that. No one watches like 1 hour ones unless you have a very compelling guest or it's a very controversial topic, you know? So that's why stuff like that needs to be clipped and you have to find the most interesting parts because again, that competition is actually very boring. You're watching 8 guys staring at a screen trying to trade. It's not like they're talking to each other. It's not like you're watching like one of those poker tournaments where they're insulting each other and stuff or joking around. Like they need to make it more like a poker tournament where people are talking and interacting. They should also do, I think they should do more of like a day trade type of stream where there's more action instead of, they were sitting there waiting hours for trades. Anyway, so, all right, you guys, I'm not going to, if you keep me here, I'll just keep talking and talking. Why this market just keeps going higher and higher and higher? I'm so pissed I got out. All right, guys. So enjoy your holiday. All right, cool. So be back Monday, 3 o'clock. Remember, I'm not going to stream the 9:30 on Monday. I'm going to stream at 3 o'clock. Right? All right. So enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of the evening, wherever you are in the world, and thank you so much for watching.